We're back in Fallout 76! I haven't played this in practically a year. It was probably after E3, and Bethesda was promising NPCs again. Unfortunately for me, I foolishly thought they were in-game already. But I still managed to get a new character up to level 45 again before quitting. You may know him if you've been with this channel for a while. His name? He's from when I tried to be a gameplay channel, but that wasn't quite my thing and ended up kinda cringy. So I ended up nuking the entire video series. And I chose to play as him again for this. He's a stealth sniper who owns the Church of the Potty Hat. For this re-review of the game, I'm going to go through my experiences after returning and tell you what I think about it. Then answer the question, how is Fallout 76 doing in 2020? Anyway, let's begin. So starting off, people are back! Where'd they go, Todd? Where did you lock them up? Anyway, I decided to hop back into the game and realized they have private worlds now, behind a paywall. Unfortunately, I don't feel generous enough to give Bethesda my money right now, so I just decided to deal with the usual game. My journey begins again in White Spring, and I am just bombarded with quests. This is a cold wake-up, and I don't have a clue what I was doing earlier, other than being a total derp. Eventually, I decided to get on with that Wastelanders story after listening to the Overseer, who left us logs around the Wasteland earlier. I presume they died after fighting the Scorched Beast Queen, but oh well, here they are now. They need some time after the apocalypse, and I don't blame them. Seeing your homeland get nuked and irradiated is a lot to process. Unfortunately, there were some quests I skipped over on this characters that they decided to send me on. I had to get inoculated for glowy coronavirus, so I won't go bonkers like some people in the world. But before getting started on that, I had to be a total doof and goof around first. And before I knew it, I learned that this game is still quite buggy. I took a clear shot into the head of an enemy and blammo! Damage numbers come up, but no damage was registered. Did it again and it worked, but that's still kind of inconvenient. Also, I'm a stealth character, so I feel like enemies walking right by me and not noticing me is going to be a very common occurrence. This is Bethesda we're talking about. But after enough goofing around, I decided to get my way back onto the quest, being the uber-elite sniper that I am. Blowing off heads before I could even find the enemy, apparently. Yes, some of these odd-bugged enemies still exist. Take them or leave them. At least they're not attacking me. Anyway, speeding up now. Got fetch quest for blood. Got blood samples. Notice how bad the frame rate is. Got electrical part. Went back to hospital. Fused bloods of animals and made cure for disease somehow. I cured glowy corona! Report back to Overseer. Apparently 2 factions move in. One is normal people trying to make it by. The others are edgelord McMurder folks, who are then sent to do 2 prior quests to begin, mainly to gain their trust and get them vaccinated against glowy corona. I decided to use a random player's house as a point to quick travel to, since it was the closest point to the next mission part. And it was a pretty impressive building. I'm glad that other players are having a lot of fun building stuff like this in the game. Unfortunately, after beginning my trek, I encountered a really hard enemy. This is one of my problems with Fallout 76. Difficulty is very sporadic and go from me one-shotting groups of enemies to one overpowering me in just a few slaps. But after that, I manned up and got my sack of junk and kept carrying on. After a 9-minute trek, I get to normal people trying to get by in the wasteland town, in some beautiful radiant weather. Get it? Radiant? Because it's a rad storm? But after getting into town, there's this rather terrible noise playing. Like, I get it, the stuff you hear is an instrument when you play the game, but it sounds a bit discordant when 3 or so people are doing it. But after exploring this nice little settlement, I decided to meet their head honcho, Paige. His faction is formally called the Foundation, because I guess you gotta start somewhere. As per the main quest, we offer them some drugs against glowy corona. They don't entirely trust us, so we have to go and earn it. So we head off to find one of their crews, and oh no, they were all murdered by glowy corona people. But after clearing out all the enemies, it's time to play detective, and this is where I see some small sparkle of this campaign being like the original Fallout. You can use your stats as skill checks to hopefully find bonuses to help solve your problem rather than doing it the hard way. Anyway, we find this guy Paige trusts and convince Paige that we need to vaccinate against glowy corona. After all that, we go gain the trust of the raiders for some reason. This unfortunately means doing this old quest that existed in the base game, and we gotta do something for this Lady Rose, so off we After a crash that destroyed Windows Explorer so bad I had to reset my computers, off we go to do some more Arbitrarium for reasons. Along the way I find the best NPC ever, Graham and his moo-moo, Charlie. This was another NPC that existed in the base game, and they said NPCs wouldn't be in the base game. Ha 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 ha. Calling you out, Todd. We then continue our adventure, bouncing between 3 spots to go pick up singular items. We then find a tinker's workbench before returning. Oops, sorry, one more place you need to go with that thing that you just assembled at the tinker's workshop. So after that, I'm feeling a bit wary about all this go here, do that, just to progress the story. My interest began to wane here, and I continued playing for 5 hours after this point, but I think I'll just cease telling my direct impressions and just jump into summing it up. Fallout 76 is Fallout 4, but with multiplayer, to ultimately sum it up. It is an extremely mixed bag. I really want to enjoy this game, and I really want it to be better. I went beyond that point I described, and I'm still feeling very meh about it. Between bugs, long loads, frame rate issues, and more, I feel like the entire engine is being run at its limit. I'm sorry to down-talk it, but Bethesda really should have shelved this project. Heck, I wouldn't have minded them shelving Fallout 4 for another year or two if it meant getting co-op or a decent online mode. The idea of being a settler in a wasteland is such a good one, but it's an idea they flubbed so hard. The inventory system is atrocious and we can't legally install mods to fix it. The fact that they've cut off needed features and shoved it into a subscription package is a kick in the nuts. I don't mind the cosmetics store. I would buy pink power armor if I had the chance. Also, the irony of capitalizing on communism here. But there's just so much wrong with the base game. I can see a few ways to fix it. Number 1, stability. This is a biggie. Graphics be damned. Get the game stable, and frame rate functioning decently. If you require precision actions, such as aiming a gun, a half-second freeze is going to make that very frustrating for other players. And the ability to not wait 5 to 10 minutes for the game to start up and load again from a crash is also needed. I know this engine is at least a decade old, and why are computers having a hard time running it? Maybe it was just a bad engine to begin with. Anyway, next up, number 2, inventory management. There's a lot of junk in Fallout 76, and it's very needed for repairing your equipment and buildings. I would say rework the junk system so there's only a few categories of resources. Like, say, materials, electronics, chemicals, parts. Like, use materials for basic building, very common, easy to find. Electronics as uncommon things for, like, upgrades or special items. Chemicals for medicine and ammo, then parts for repairing and upgrading weapons and armor. Maybe even make rare parts as a valuable reward for powerful upgrades or equipment. Sure, it's a suggestion, but when there's 20 or more different materials hogging your storage, I think it might be time to simplify. Unfortunately, they put a storage issue solution behind a subscription with the scrap box. Number 3, normalize damage. Damage is all over the place. I'm either taking too little or too much. I'm either one-shotting an enemy or having to shove 20 rounds into an enemy to even see that health bar drop. Let's say I poked around in the game stats and found out that enemies above 25 start having crazy damage resistance. I'm not 100% sure how the damage formula works in this game, but it doesn't work. I feel like 80% of the guns are immediately worthless because resistances are way too high. It also makes armor-piercing mods mandatory, and if you chose anything other than a damage spec, you might as well be screwed. I would seriously just say get rid of the damage resistances and increase the HP. I'd rather do 1 or 2 or 3 extra shots than 20. Part of me assumes this is for the multiplayer aspect, so a group of people will have to work together to overcome. However, when adventuring alone, which I think is probably 80% of the population that plays this game, they'll throw these really tough enemies at you, and it's not fun. It's not rewarding to get some junk that you might not even be able to use. Which leads me to number 4, better loot! After beating a tough enemy, I feel like I don't get anything special. You might get a heavy weapon or legendary item, and all the legendary items have these random effects, or worse, conditional effects, like, sorry, you need to be at 40% HP for this bonus, sorry, this only works on Mirelurks, sorry, this only when you take damage from a scorch during the nighttime. If things were a bit more unique and not restrictive, like, for example, Destiny exotics, which are all just normal guns, but they have something unique and powerful about them, Like, let's say, inert chain lightning effects, or make enemies explode when they die. That would be more cool. But oftentimes I get a weapon or something that can't even be used to dent a high-level common enemy. Unfortunately, I can't tell what the game direction is for this game now. It's trying to be like a traditional Fallout with the Wastelanders update, with options and choices to make. It's trying to be a looter shooter, but it has junk loot and terrible inventory systems. Then it's also trying to be a survival building game, but camps are an underbaked system and so is the player trade system. Mainly because the inventory's bad. And then it's trying to be like an MMO, but lacks the engagement factor to keep people in. This game is just trying to be too many things at once and achieves nothing. The Wastelanders expansion is a cherry on top of a poop cake. There's something sweet there, but do you really want to eat a little bit of poop to enjoy it? Probably not. I remember doing a nuke zone and it being awesome, having 8+ people at my side once as we fought tough enemies together. Then the game crashed because there was too much going on at once. There is serious potential here, but this is just a bad platform for it. I genuinely think they should just discontinue the game in a year or so if they can't fix the game's platform. This should be priority number 1, but I know Bethesda's unfortunately crippled itself by abandoning the modding community that practically made it what it was. Modders would have had an unofficial patch out for this game in the first week to fix bugs. But Bethesda doesn't even know how to QA test their games before launch. It's like Todd Howard prods an animal to make sure it's not dead and says, "Good, release it." But ultimately, I have to give Fallout 76 and 2020 a meh rating. I enjoy the setting, I enjoy the story to a light degree, but there are so many pros I can only muster before a long list of cons. If you enjoy the Fallout universe and have the patience for it, go for it. Unfortunately, during my sessions, it does feel like I'm wasting my time playing this game. If they could reward players better, maybe I'd stay around, but right now I'm not feeling it. I feel like I've been manipulated into playing something I would like, but I technically can't play it because of issues. There's just too many barriers in the way of enjoyment for this game. And back to the original question, how is Fallout 76 doing in 2020? Not good. So I think that'll do it for this video. This was a long one, with a bit of a rant thrown in there. But it is kind of sad to see a series I loved has been grounded up and turned into garbage like this. Here's hoping they'll make it better, if I decide to come back to it in the year. If not, I'll just thumb it down, because how can you make this worse? But that aside, thanks for watching this video. Like if you liked, sub if you want more. And I'll see you all in the next video. This is Mr. Bubbles signing out. Bye-bye.